Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The May 21st, 2025 meeting of the City Council will now come to order at 6:03. Winnie, we may have roll call, please.
Jessica Ayers. Here. Nick Card.
Here.
Kevin Keating. Here. Mike Kurlinger.
Here.
John Quinn.
Here.
Zach Smith. Kevin Stein.
Here.
And Garrett West.
Here.
We have 7 present.
City Manager.
So since we have such a heavy agenda, series, actually 3 agendas this evening, we're going to defer the city manager's report until the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to recognitions, community group reports, starting with employee recognitions. Bonnie Barish is here to recognize employee anniversaries and retirement. Or Travel Medford.
Mayor Council, I'm Bonnie Barish, your HR Director, and I have the distinct privilege of recognizing some of our long-term employees this evening. So first, I would like to recognize Tony Den, goes by Anthony, with 20 years of service. So Tony works as an operator at the city's wastewater treatment plant, a position that he has held since coming to the city, 20 years ago in May of 2005. He's assigned to the maintenance section where he is highly skilled maintenance technician, ensuring the complex pumps, the gates, the valves, electronic control systems, piping, and other plant equipment are in proper working order. He has received specialized training in the maintenance and repair of the Waukesha cogen engine, and in 2016, Tony received his journeyman millwright status from the Jackson County Millwrights, a program through RCC. This was a significant accomplishment for him. In addition to maintaining the plant, Tony also works many different positions at the plant. First as plant operator, ensuring plant processes are in full compliance with our permit, and as a designated relief operator where he can be called upon kind of to work anywhere within the plant that there's a need. So please join me in congratulating Tony on 20 years of service with the City of Medford. Do you want your wife in a picture with you?
Does she want to be in the picture?
I don't want to.
I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. All right, gotcha.
Congratulations, Tony. So we have a lot of anniversaries. It seems like it's after this, all police and fire tonight. So R.J. Josephson, or Richard Josephson, he can't be here tonight, but he has 25 years of service. We all know the great work he does, and so please join me in congratulating him on 25 years of service. For fire, 25 years of service is Dan Buchanan. Dan could not be here tonight. I know they do this thing called working, I don't know. But anyway, they can't all be here tonight, but we just want to say congratulations on his 25 years of service. And who is here? Yay. Kevin Geller, 25 years of service. Kevin's a fire engineer. His employment with the city started on May 1st of 2000 as a firefighter. During his tenure, he's been involved as a member of the Emergency Medical Service Committee, CPR instructor, and he has been involved in the department's technical rescue training. In 2014, Kevin was promoted to the role of fire engineer. Kevin wanted it shared that he really cherishes the great people that he gets to work with, and he just really appreciates the City of Medford's support for the fire department. So please join me in congratulating Kevin on 25 years of service. Any other team members? Are we good? We're good. Okay, thanks. Thanks, team, for coming. All right. Next, fire. 25 years of service. I mean, these folks have been here a long time, and it's just amazing that we have that kind of knowledge in our teams. So Dave Herrick, 25 years of service, and he is a fire engineer. He could not be here tonight, but let's congratulate him on 25 years of service. And one of our stars from, I think, the awards banquet, we saw this name come up a bit. Sean Schmidt, Fire BC, Shift Commander, 25 years of service. He could not be here tonight, but let's just say thank you to Sean for 25 years with the city. Next, for the anniversary and the retirement, bittersweet, for Kevin Watt, I'm going to ask our fire chief, Eric Thompson, to talk a little bit about Kevin.
Come on, Kilo One. How you doing? Good. You good? You nervous?
Yeah.
I am too. Yeah. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Eric Thompson, your fire chief. This evening we honor and bid farewell to firefighter and leader Captain Kevin Watt, known affectionately to us as Kilo One. Kevin's 25-year career with the Medford Fire Department is a testament to his dedication and skill commitment to public service. Kevin's journey in firefighting was built on a firm educational foundation. Kevin has degrees in both fire suppression and in paramedicine. Prior to joining our team, Kevin demonstrated his commitment to firefighting as a volunteer. He also did time with ODF, the Oregon Department of Forestry. He did time with Polk County Fire District Number 1 and Lapine. And then he came home to Medford in 2000, where he has served ever since. And in 2012, he earned the well-deserved promotion to captain, where he has been a consistent leader for us. Thank you, Kevin. Since 2019, Kevin has been certified in acting up and working in capacity as a battalion chief, continually showing leadership and dedication when he steps up for us. Kevin's impact is felt across multiple significant programs, from his involvement in EMS and technology initiatives to playing an essential role in our awards committee. Kevin's participation in the State of Jefferson EMS Conference highlights commitments to advancing medical and emergency response capabilities. Beyond Kevin's professional life, Kevin contributes as a medical volunteer at the Brit Festival. That's pretty cool, huh? Yeah. Demonstrates his passion for sports with pickleball and surfing. I know that's Chief Ivan's favorite, pickleball, and finds joy in travel, with his most recent adventure being a trip to Miami. Throughout his distinguished career, Kevin has been supported by his lovely wife, Deborah, whose strength and love have been a constant source of support. His family and close friends have been pillars of support, standing by him, and has dedicated his life to service. Thank you, Kevin, for your leadership, your passion and selfless service. Your steadfast commitment has left an unforgettable mark on the department and has set the standard for future generations. As you close this chapter, we wish you many happy adventures and fulfilling times with those you love. Enjoy every moment of your well-deserved retirement. So please help me in congratulating Captain Kevin Watt on his retirement and his 25 years of service with the city of Medford. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good job.
Family?
Yeah.
No, we gotta make That's good. Wanda, that's you too. Wanda.
Don't worry. Yeah, we're gonna have to tight, hold each other.
I think so, yeah. Okay, ready? All right, we're going to take about 5, so.
Great. Thank you, Kevin, and congratulations. And we'll make sure you get those. You'll get those photos. Yeah.
Is Derek up next?
Yeah, but he's not here. But yeah.
No recording. Just audio.
And lastly for this evening would be the retirement of Police Sergeant Derek Parks for 27 years of service. And Derek could not be here tonight, but let's thank him on his 27 years. It's always a pleasure to be able to recognize our employees. I want to say a special thank you for the amazing years of service with our public safety folks. It means a lot that they have stayed here, and what a great team that we have. So congratulations, everyone. And that will conclude our employee recognition.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, and congratulations to our outstanding employees, and thank you for your many years of service to our community. Up next, we have a quarterly update from Travel Medford with TJ Holmes. And forewarning, he's going to be long-winded tonight, I believe is what I was told. Actually, no. He's going to be extraordinarily brief and concise and has exciting videos to share tonight. So with that, TJ.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is TJ Holmes. I'm the Senior Vice President for Travel Medford, and thank you for the opportunity to present our quarter-through report to you. This is January through March of 2025. It's always great to get in front of you and talk about all the great things going on in the travel and tourism industry. Some of you were also at the Chamber Forum last week, so some of this information and some of the visual aids are you've seen it. Some of those you'll be able to see some new stuff tonight, so really excited to share some of the stuff with you tonight. Just want to also touch on, in front of you, you have more detailed packet from the quarter-through report in front of you, as well as a sports experience guide. I'll go over that a little bit too. And I just want to touch on the sticker in your little goodie bag up there. The white one is a clear sticker, so put that on something that's a darker bottle or a darker background so you can see the white writing on that too. Touching on quarter three, we talked about the transient lodging tax and the revenue from January through March. February and March are both record months for those specific months in transient lodging tax. The numbers you're seeing in front of you are Travel Medford's share, which is 25% of the net TLT, so the city receives 75% of what you see in those numbers right there from the lodging tax. So February was up to $99,000, a record February, March at $109,000. So we actually ended quarter three with a record quarter by just over 1% of our previous record quarter in TLT from 2022. So great start to 2025. For some of our tourism trends, these are our key metrics that we track. ADR, which is average daily rate, was up. That was a record. $106 was a record for that quarter. So far this year, 8 of the 9 months that we track this fiscal year has been up year over year in average daily rate. And the only one that was down was very, very minuscule, being down as well. Occupancy was at 55%, as you can see, significantly up year over year. The reason why 2021 and 2022 was so much larger is we had less hotel rooms available at that time, so supply was a lot lower. Demand has been right about there too. So as you can see in the note, our supply was 12% up from 2021 right now, so that's a difference right there too. Mentioned the TLT revenue, the intermediaries from the short-term rentals, the 56,000 was obviously a record for quarter three. And right now, the intermediaries TLT is tracking about 18.7% of total TLT, so that 301,000 includes that $56,000 from the short-term rentals as well. So that so far, that 18.7% is the most that you've seen in quarter three so far that we've had. So short-term rentals continues to be a strong market for us. Just want to touch on some tourism promotion. This is our key deliverable and initiative. about 85% of our TLT that we get goes back into tourism promotion and advertising from the city. Just want to touch on a few things that we worked on. It took us about a year to come up with a great visual asset project, some new commercials, some new photos that we're going to be able to use to market ourselves going forward and market Medford as a whole to the outside world and trying to attract people to come here. So I'm going to show you a video that our team executively produced that took over a year to be able to put this together. We also received a little help from Travel Oregon on a grant to be able to help out with this opportunity. So enjoy. So that was a project we were pretty excited about. Obviously, there's a lot of different cut downs and different versions that we'll be able to use this in our advertising going forward, but this is our main one that we use for that too. So just wanted to get that in front of you. We're able to shoot in 4 different seasons with 4 different archetypes or different audiences that we're trying to attract with that too. So just wanted to show you some of our new assets we'll be using in our advertising going forward. Some more tourism promotion highlights. We do an Expedia campaign where this is a direct booking campaign with our advertising. We're able to directly see that if our ad was in front of a user or someone on the web, we can see if they booked a hotel room directly in Medford and if they came here to do that too. So this is a campaign that the hoteliers obviously love. Our tourism council is very supportive of this. So far, August 1st through March, we spent $89,000 on this campaign. This is one of our largest spends that we have. That generated $1.5 million in hotel revenue for hotels in Medford, and for a return on spend of $17 for every dollar that we put into that campaign. So over almost about 13,000 room nights were generated from this specific campaign, which is tracking really, really well. So while we've spent $89,000 on this campaign, the city has actually received over $120,000 directly just from this campaign, from us running these ads. For the Oregonian Performance Campaign, just want to touch on some really quick too. Over 2 million impressions that we've been able to advertise. Our winter campaign in February and March, we focus on audiences in Sacramento, San Francisco, and Phoenix because of our air traffic that we've seen an increase in people coming from Phoenix, Arizona. So you can see some of the creatives right there, and it performed really well with over 42,000 clicks and well above the benchmark as well of 0.08. So significantly up. Our targeting has been locked in, as I would say, to be able to perform that well. For some of our event promotion, we have our big Savor Southern Oregon wine event coming up in 24 days. We're really excited about this. We heard from the wineries to help elevate the wine industry, but also to have the wineries help us craft an event that would support them, but also drive out-of-town visitation for one of our key pillars. And we always say, you can't tell the story of the Rogue Valley without talking about wine and agritourism. It's one of our key pillars in what we do. So this is an event that we're hoping is going to be very successful going forward, and its inaugural year coming up. And then in some of the highlights, all of our grant funding that we did to support events has been allocated for this fiscal year. So this year we supported 38 events. We supported them with over $120,000 in support for that. And then we also launched a new grant program. Well, it's the same grant program, but we just reallocated how we do it. Instead of it being an ongoing application cycle, we have 2 open period cycles. The first one right now for any event in July through December of this year, that application cycle closes in May at the end of this month. So we'll have another application period open later in the year as well. For destination development, talking about sports tourism, we contracted with the Huddle Up Group to revamp our sports tourism plan with all the emphasis and investment that's going into sports tourism. Obviously, with the success of Rogue X on our shoulders and Lithium Driveway Fields, from what the city's been able to put together for the crown jewels, like that we like to say for our venues. We're trying to capitalize as much as we can on sports tourism. So going through that strategic planning process where we had over 90 different stakeholders in the community provide input from surveys or interviews to be able to put together this strategic plan. So a lot of feedback as well. Some of our event support, very happy to report that we bid on the American Legion Regional Championships. So that's where the 8 state champions are going to come to Medford to play a week-long tournament for the regional championships, and we were able to secure that bid and win that bid for 2026 and 2027. Obviously, we were talking to Rich Rosenthal at Medford Parks and Rec to coordinate a lot of efforts with that too, as well as the Medford Mustangs. So that's a great collaboration on trying to secure more events that's going to drive more economic impact as well. I mentioned too the Sport Experience Guide. I have this in front of you. We just published this publication during this quarter. We were able to use this as our go-to guide to get in front of rights holders and events rights holders to try and attract their events to come to Medford. So it's not only what our venues have going on, but what can the people do while they're here to be able to generate and maximize as much that we can out of them for sports tourism. So our Director of Sports Development, Darren Van Len, was able to get in front of 30 one-on-one appointments in Tulsa, Oklahoma in April actually, and present this to them to try and attract and recruit new events to come to Medford to drive economic impact. So very exciting piece that we'll be using going forward and updating. And then also the Know Your Role program. Some of you know what the Know Your Role program is, and trying to help the behavior towards sports officials and try and help with recruitment and retention for referees and sports officials. It's an epidemic around the country that they're not being treated well. If we're in the mission of trying to bring events to Medford, we want to make sure we have enough officials here to be able to officiate and that they're being treated very well so that they want to come back so these events sustain year over year. So we're able to hold a Know Your Role night with the Royals, the hockey team. They had Know Your Role jerseys printed up and signed on the back, and they were able to auction them off as a fundraiser as well. So it's a very great collaboration between the sports community. We have another Know Your Role night coming up with the Medford Rogues for the second year on Wednesday, June 25th. So I invite you all out to the ballpark to be able to be out there for the Know Your Role night. It's a great awareness campaign that we have going on. And we've also been producing videos, and actually award-winning videos. One I'm about to show you about how we're getting the word out to our licensees and how they're able to use this video, like USA Softball is a client of Know Your Role in the Sports Commission, to be able to publish some of this stuff too. So I'm going to show you a video right now.
It's game time! And there's only one thing that makes it all possible. Refs.
We're looking for people like you.
Former athletes,
Parents,
community members.
anyone who can manage the game and stick with it.
But we need more heroes and stripes, people like you.
Join the team and keep sports alive.
Play ball.
Because no ref, no game.
So that's part of our official recruitment and retention, to be able to have some action behind some of the awareness campaign that we're doing. And other than that, I can answer any questions.
Thanks, TJ. That was right on time. Well done. I'll kick off a question. In the sports guide, like the last page, it goes through sort of the average daily rates on hotels. And I'm kind of curious, how competitive are those rates for in the sports tourism, I guess, realm?
Yeah, one of the things that we have going for us that we're able to leverage to bring events is that the dollar gets stretched further coming to Medford. We don't like to say cheap or affordable. We like to say you just get more bang for your buck in what we're trying to do here. So because the rates are affordable, that's one of the main reasons why we're able to recruit the Cascade Collegiate Conference soccer championships, is because our average daily rate's lower than that of Eugene or Portland right now too. So that's able to entice a lot more event directors to know that they could spend less money and their people coming to coming to the area for those events are going to not have to fork out as much, or it could be spent in other areas in the destination, such as activities, restaurants, retail, zip lining, anything else like that too.
Other questions?
I have a quick
No,
one.
yeah, Kevin.
Hey, TJ, do they negotiate special rates with the hotels?
The rights directors, yeah, they will talk to the hotels. We'll make sure that they have the contacts to make the contact. We can't negotiate that ourselves, but they will specifically speak to the hotels for, to do room blocks for pricing and anything else too individually as they are able to communicate that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Great.
other questions? Yeah, Mike.
This is mostly just curiosity, but how many different cuts of that first video do you guys have?
We have, that's a 60-second, we have a 30-second, a 15-second, and a 6-second of that specific video. But we have different 15 seconds per season,
Season
per
cuts,
archetype.
cool, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, we have per season, and then we have about 6 or 7 reels per activity for all the activities
That's
that were shot. So in addition to about 120 photos.
All right. Oh, yes.
Just a comment, not a question, TJ. Just want to thank you and Travel Medford for being a great partner for the city. I mean, I know there's a lot of important work that has been accomplished thanks to the efforts of Travel Medford, continuing to support our hotels and education, youth sports, youth activities. I know you guys are our lead partner on trying to get a conference center here in the Valley. We're excited to make that happen. We have these opportunities with potentially bringing the Emeralds in. So I just want to say thank you and the work you and your team do to helping us make these things a reality for our community, because it's a lot more than just some cool advertisement and getting heads in beds. It's also building a better Medford in the process. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. We are honored to be your destination marketing organization and destination management organization. So
you don't have to get so choked up, man. It's okay.
Thank you, Counselor.
Well, hey, thanks for the update and great presentation.
Thank you.
Also, an update from Emergency Communications of Southern Oregon. Director Tim Doney is here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tim Doney. With me is Kevin Harris, who's the Operation Manager for the 911 Center here locally. This is a bit of Groundhog Day for me, as I was a City of Medford employee for almost 26 years, leaving in 2013, and I recognize a couple faces up on the dais and some familiar faces in the audience from city employees. I come to you tonight as the director of the local 911 center, and when I say that, that local 911 center is your center. You contribute approximately 37% of the user fees for the operation of the center, and I'd like to just hit the wave tops. I know you got a very busy agenda tonight, but I'd like to hit the wave tops, and my hope is this is potentially an open invitation for some of you to come out and see our operations, because it's very pertinent to the safety of your neighborhoods in your city, and you are a big player in this equation. So just a little trip down memory lane. For those of you that aren't aware, there was a time back in the 1980s when we actually had 5 different dispatch centers in Jackson County. I'm going to talk a little bit about some acronyms. One that you may hear me talk about is a PSAP, a Public Safety Answering Point, fancy name for a 911 center. Oregon has 36 counties, and at one time we had over 60 PSAPs in the state. And many of those PSAPs didn't dispatch for all the public safety agencies. In some cases, they took the 911 call and they transferred them to other agencies to dispatch for themselves. For instance, Lane County has 3 911 centers in the county, and there's probably 4 other dispatch centers beneath it. We're fortunate here today to come to you telling you that Jackson County and the 13 municipalities within the county and Crater Lake National Park have 1 PSAP. So when you call 911, it comes to us. As I mentioned, back in the 1980s, there was actually 4 municipal-type dispatch centers and the state police, and the state police are a bit of a different animal. They don't take any 911 calls themselves. Information is transferred to them from 911 centers around the state. The city of Medford, back in the 1980s, actually had a dispatch center, and we dispatched for the Medford Police Department and the Medford Fire Department. The dispatch center was located on the first floor of City Hall, as was the Medford City Jail. In addition to Medford Police Department's dispatch center taking 911 calls, there was a governmental consortium called Southern Oregon Regional Communications, or SOURCE. They took the 911 calls for primarily the rest of the county outside of the Medford city limits, and they dispatched for the Sheriff's Department as well as most of the smaller fire agencies within the county. So those 2 centers took 911 calls, and they in turn transferred calls to other jurisdictions that dispatched their own police and fire officers. The city of Ashland had their own dispatch center, and at one time Central Point had their own dispatch center, and they dispatched for Eagle Point, Central Point, and Shady Cove Police. In the early 2000s, there was a concerted effort by the Oregon legislature to reduce the number of PSAPs and improve the service to the citizens of Oregon. And essentially, they held a gun to most of the PSAP's head, and they said that we want you guys to combine where you can. Some of it was based on geography, some of it was based on county jurisdictions, and as a result, the 2 big public safety folks in the county, Sheriff Mike Winters and Medford Police Chief Randy Schoen, began talks about combining the 2 911 centers. And in 2009, Jackson County paid for and built a very modern 911 center that's located out on airport property. If you know where the weather service is or the air tanker base, we're right out there on Peck Road. And at that time, Source moved into the facility with talks involving the city of Medford, in which the idea was best case scenario, we would combine operations. Worst case scenario, we would be co-located so the Medford dispatchers could talk with essentially the county dispatchers. In 2010, Medford PD moved in to the center out there. At that time, Medford PD's dispatch center was called RevCom, Rogue Valley Consolidated Communications. Initially, as I mentioned, it was downstairs in City Hall. Eventually, it was over where the fire department's located in the Lozman Annex. In 2010, due to some circumstances, the merger came quicker than we expected. The supervisor for Medford's RevCom actually got a job running the Washington County 911 Center, and as a result, that merger, it happened quick. And since that time, we've been known as Emergency Communications of Southern Oregon. We are an ORS 190 organization. We're a combined agency of 30 public safety agencies, police, fire, and EMS. In roughly around 2014, the fire and police chiefs recognized that there were issues with the radio system, which was a combination of 3 different legacy type radio systems. One was owned by Source, one was owned by the city of Medford, and the other was owned by the city of Ashland. They employed a federal study and began down a route of building out the radio infrastructure throughout the entire county. It culminated in 2019. Some of you may remember citizens of Jackson County voted on a bond measure for $28 million to build out a vibrant, modern regional radio system throughout the entire county. It passed with about 58% of the vote. COVID hit, supply chain issues hit. We're a little behind schedule, but what I will say is that we are charging forward. We anticipate the new radio system will be up and running likely in the first, if not second quarter of next year. We have a lot of moving parts. I know this council has heard some information and been involved in votes on grants for radio equipment and accessories, which is all part of the master plan with reference to that. This is just a brief listing of the agencies we dispatch for. We actually dispatch and touch more agencies than just the 30 I mentioned. So we answer 911 calls in all of Jackson County as well as Crater Lake National Park, but our actual radio footprint touches 5 different counties because if you're not aware, Crater Lake National Park lies within 3 different counties, Douglas, Klamath, and Jackson. We have radio footprints that touch down into Siskiyou County. We have mutual aid agreements with CAL FIRE, so there are times there may be an accident at the summit of the Siskiyou, and the first emergency responder on the scene is going to be a CAL FIRE engine out of Hornbrook, California. After hours, we also dispatch, in addition to our public safety partners, we dispatch for the Forest Service and the BLM, so we may be having radio broadcasts with BLM wilderness rangers on the Rogue River between Agnes and Gold Beach. So we really do have a big footprint. Talking a little bit about our radio infrastructure improvement. We went out, a study suggested that we could build this vibrant system for $28 million that included contingencies. It was a bit of a shock when this happened back in 2019, 2020, when the only bid we got on this system was $43.6 million. We started off underwater to start with, but what I will say moving forward through time, through some strategic partnerships with the City of Medford on radio purchases, with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, some significant help from both sides of the aisle. In the Oregon legislature, we received $2.5 million last year. We have a pending bill and legislation for some more funds this year. A lot of saving and a lot of partnerships with the state of Oregon and our federal partners. We expect that when we're done in less than a year that we're going to be probably knocking on the door of about $38 million as opposed to almost $44 million. So knock on wood, this new system is going to be a modern P25 compliant digital trunked simulcast 700 VHF radio system. A lot of acronyms, a lot of terms. It may go right over your head, but basically what this is, we have radio sites strategically located throughout this entire county. I like to say our county is very geographically diverse. We have a lot of texture where you go some places in eastern Oregon or even Bend, they have some mountainous regions in the Cascades, but they have a lot of flat land. We have to get to a lot of high ground locations for our radio signals. This new system is going to be the best of both worlds, we believe, because the VHF system is a radio wave that travels long distances. It's good for rural fire districts, primarily, or deputy sheriffs that are out in very rural areas. And the 700 component is actually good for law and fire in the urban environment, where buildings such as this would be difficult to get radio waves into because of the concrete walls. So as close, and just as a point of reference, we're going to have a radio tower on the HHS building right across the street. So hopefully that will provide good radio coverage where there's some blank spots in this core area, including the sheriff's office, the jail, the courthouse, things like that, and Medford PD and Medford Fire. A little bit about our call volume. We answered or initiated approximately 373,000 calls last year. Being someone from public safety, there's a word we don't like to use. It starts with Q and it ends with T, and it has to do with how busy you are. And so I'm not going to say that tonight, but when there may not be any activity going on in Central Point today, the world may be falling apart in Ashland. Or if it's one of those rare days when there's not much going on in Medford, the world may be falling apart in the unincorporated areas. We are a busy place. Almost 300 911 calls a day, roughly 1,000 calls that we receive or we initiate. This doesn't include the messages we send to the computers and the fire trucks and the police cars or the radio transmissions. We are an accredited agency. We have performance benchmarks that have to do with 911 calls, with our performance with reference to fire dispatching, police dispatching, and medical dispatching. And I'm happy to say that we've met all the benchmarks. Talking a little bit about our staffing, when ECSO came into existence in 2010, we had a total of 53 employees. We had 41 call taker dispatchers and 12 support staff. Today, we are a lean machine. We have 52 FTEs. We've actually gone down substantially when it comes to dispatchers. We have 37 FTE dispatch positions at this point. We've increased some of the staffing on the support side because of all the technology that has increased. Some of the challenges that we're encountering, probably some of you may encounter in your everyday lives in the business world or public safety here, hiring the right people for the job. We would love to hire people with life experience, as I call it. Unfortunately, our world is very much technology driven, and just as an example, you can see a photograph of a call taker dispatcher. They work with 10 computer screens, 3 mouses, aka mice, 2 foot pedals, and we answer, we have 13 911 lines. That doesn't include all the back lines. So it is a busy place. It can overwhelm anyone. It's also challenging to get employees that are willing to come to work at 3 a.m., 5 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m., and 11 a.m. So it's a bit challenging, but we are moving forward. Approximately 3 years ago, we were at almost 50% staffing, a little over 50% staffing. We are making strides in reference to that. Again, we're trying to do more with less. We're focusing on technology, how it can support us. There's just a variety of different things that we're doing with reference to technology to make ourselves more efficient. I want to talk briefly about funding. We are not a taxing authority. We are an ORS 190. Our budget this year is $10.4 million. We get funding, approximately 23% of our budget derives from state 911 taxes, which is a $1.25 fee on every phone line that you have. We also derive 77% of our funding from user fee revenue, as I mentioned to you earlier, and Medford, between the police and the fire department, account for about 37% of that funding. We also have a variety of other funding streams that make up less than 1% of our budget. As a side note, I'm going to do a comparison, and this will be a segue a little bit to what the future may hold. Deschutes County, comparable size population, we have more people than Deschutes County. I would argue, even though it's the vacation destination, we are a regional draw for 9 counties and have a lot of population here that is transient in nature. Their budget this coming year is $20.1 million, and they have more employees, and we are much busier than they are. So I bring that up because I'm going to bring a topic up here shortly when I close. Looking to the future. We are currently, as I mentioned, transitioning from an old legacy system to a modern radio system. There's going to be some hiccups that come along with the transition to this new system. We are consistently looking to new technology and how to do more with less, and including the use of AI. We all have our sights on something that's called NG911. You may have heard about that, Next Generation 911. But if you think about it, traditionally, folks see a car accident and they used to call from a landline to 911. Then we got cell phones, and now we get calls from landlines and we get calls from cell phones. Now, a recent accident on North Phoenix Road, we had landline 911s, we had cell phone 911s, we had Apple iWatch crash notification, and we had OnStar in the car. We're deriving information from multiple different sources. Additionally, there will come a time in the very near future where we expect video streaming of crime scenes, of fires, to come into the dispatch center as well. We have done a trial run on a computerized program where we can send a link to a caller on a fire, particularly in a rural area, and the caller can video stream the fire to dispatch in an effort to size up and figure out what kind of resources are needed. And again, the other thing I mentioned is staffing, trying to hire the right people for the job. And the final thing I want to mention is a little bit about our funding. So I'm actually excited to bring up the topic that we are, as an organization, once again addressing the funding for ECSO 911. Throughout the years, the last 15 years, there have been a variety of reasons that not all 30 users were at the table together like-minded. And for the first time, probably within the last 18 months to 24 months, there has been some movement, in particular amongst our larger user agencies, to potentially discuss the option of a service district. While we're not there, it would require a vote of the people. It's something that is on the horizon. It potentially would, our entities would recognize more money within their budget, and we would have a stable funding source. We have a long ways to go. We are in the planning stages of setting up a study session for our board of directors, but I would like to give a shout out to city staff, also the two chiefs, and the finance director, Ryan Martin, who have come with an open mind. And honestly, it's been very nice, because over the years and because of my history here in public safety, I've seen a lot of chiefs come and go. And for the first time, everybody's playing very, very nice in the sandbox. Any questions?
Well, thank you for that. Mr. Curlinger.
I have one quick one, and I may have misunderstood or not caught something, but the bond for the radio upgrades was 28.3 million?
28 million.
28 million, and now through good spending and saving and grants, you're hoping it's going to be 38. What's making up the $10 million gap between?
So we received money from the state, $2.5 million. We have partnered on a variety of radio sites with the state of Oregon, Oregon Department of Transportation, OSP, where instead of us both building individual radio sites, we are partnering and reducing our costs on places like Soda Mountain, Mount Isabel, Tallow Box. The city of Medford received a federal earmark grant for, I believe it was about $2.5 million. I think some of you probably signed off on that. That was for radio equipment that otherwise ECSO would have had to purchase. I wish I could tell you that the $2.5 million or $2 million grant you received let us recognize $2 million in savings. It didn't. It let us recognize about $500,000, but every little bit helped. Additionally, we've had a tremendous amount of cost savings due to personnel, and ECSO, the consortium of 3 agencies, has come up over since 2019 with about $3 million to pony up towards that as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Mr. Card.
So obviously with your support staff, I mean, you're talking about technology. How much of a partnership do you do for support services with the city or the county, or do you guys handle all of that, thinking IT and computer systems, stuff like that?
I appreciate your question. We have, our current IT section consists of 3 people. We have our IT director, we have a systems administrator, and we have a CAD MSAG coordinator that really deals with the CAD system. We do it primarily in-house. We do have some partnerships with some of the IT groups. For instance, the city of Medford, they handle their own MDCs within the police cars. For some of the other smaller agencies, we do that in-house, but it has been a learning experience for me because I'll be honest, I'm a people person. I'm not necessarily so much on the technical side, but I've had to quickly learn that most of our radio system, there's computer servers and computerized technology that resides in the background. And even though you may have an entity like the city of Medford that's much bigger and has, I'm just going to say 400, 500 employees, many of the computers and the servers shut down at the end of the business day. Our computers run 24/7, 365. If we have any type of a technical glitch, it is all hands on deck. Our IT director, actually, when he travels outside the country, he is available and often troubleshoots from home to deal with some of those issues. So we have a very close partnership with Lumen Technology, which is the wireline cell provider. I am excited to tell you for the first time, also in the IT section, somewhat related, for the first time in the history of ECSO, we are actually hiring our own in-house radio tech, which I expect will be a cost savings to Medford and the other user agencies down the road, where we're going to be doing some of the radio programming, and they won't have to shop for a vendor to do that.
Great. Well, we very much appreciate the update, and we'll look for more to come. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to oral requests and communications from the audience, which is the time where we set aside 30 minutes for in-person public comments. Comments are limited to 2 minutes per person or organization. As outlined in the agenda, the public may also submit written comments to the council. We did get one late. Are we counting that as no comment?
Sorry, Mayor. That's rolled over to the next meeting because it was submitted too late.
Perfect. Before hearing public comments, I'd like to note the decorum policy for the council chambers. The use of noisemakers or disruptive audience behavior such as applause, cheering, or shouting is not permitted. Decorum violations are time-consuming and disrespectful to the speaker and all attendees. Failure to follow the basic standards of decorum may result in removal from the meeting. Finally, and I would like to emphasize that this is your opportunity to provide comments to the council and is not intended to be a time for question and answers. If you have completed a public comment form, please come to the front of the room when your name is called. The time is 6:53. Winnie, has anybody completed a public comment form for tonight's meeting?
Yes, Your Honor. 3 people signed up to speak tonight. We have Annie Jenkins, John Peterman, and Arturo Wentz.
Okay, Annie?
Sorry.
Do I have to hit the button? No, I don't. Anna Jenkins from the Downtown Medford Association. I just would like to share with you guys today, we have been working with the tree wells in downtown trying to get people to clean up their tree wells. We also submitted for a application from the United Way Day of Caring project for this, and they came in on Saturday and cleaned up 250 tree wells in our downtown district. There was over 70 volunteers. We had volunteers from the Church of Latter-day Saints come in, and they did a phenomenal job. They were done within less than 3 hours. We also had support from Latter-day Saints Church, also Grocery Outlet came in and provided meals for each one of those people that were there that day. So I just wanted to share, it does take a community to bring us all together, and we've been trying just to share those words out, and that would have cost us over $5,000 just to have those done. So it was a $5,000 savings at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Was it John?
Name's John Peterman. I was cited for unnecessary noise on August 13th, 2024. Went to court and lost the case. I believe that the city code 5.225 sound ordinance code is somewhat unconstitutional in its definitions. It does not include amplification. It actually says sound producing and sound reproducing equipment. An amplifier, such as we're using here tonight, doesn't produce sound. It doesn't reproduce sound. It amplifies your voice so that you can be heard. And Saya versus New York ruled in 1948, SCOTUS ruled in 1948 that we have the right to be heard in a modern society with traffic and noise and whatnot. So the code says in section 3A, plainly audible, and it also says ordinary sensitivities. Those are subjective terms, and Saya versus New York talked about objective standards, such as decibel levels. A decibel level, such as in this room, for example, would be about 65 dB. And a decibel level of 106 would be damaging to your hearing. So I would request that the city council, who is responsible for this code, per the code itself, the city council finds that the obligation to draft regulations that affect speech in a content-neutral fashion is of paramount importance. I knew that was going to happen. So anyway, I think it's incumbent upon the city council to readdress the sound ordinance code and make it a little more equitable. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and was Arturo?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and fellow community. Thank you for the opportunity of being heard. My name is Arturo Wentz. I've been a resident of Medford for nearly 9 years, going on 10 years now. I'm a local DJ at our local radio community station, KSKQ, and I've helped out our community with things like the Almeida Fires by hosting events for donations and community assistance, helping our fellow community residents get back on their feet. Today marks a 5-year anniversary as I have reached out to you guys, my community leaders, to make you guys aware of law enforcement and probable cause. There needs to be a system in place for accountability for law enforcement's actions. Please don't let this action spread like a virus through our community. This is a violation of human rights, and it needs to be addressed and not suppressed. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Let's see, where am I here? I think at this point, is there anyone else that did not fill out a form that would like to speak? Okay. We will move on to approval or correction of the May 7th, 2025 meeting minutes. We've all received the draft minutes from May 7th, 2025, regular meeting. Does anyone have any revisions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand as submitted. On to agenda item 60, consent calendar. There are 4 items on the consent calendar tonight. Mr. Moreland.
Yes, item 60.1, Council Bill 2025-36, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of a contract in the amount of $850,000 with Knife River Materials, Inc. to supply asphalt to the Public Works Department Operations Division to perform paving and patching on city streets. Item 60.2, Council Bill 2025-37, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of a contract in the amount of $2,099,355 with Pilot Rock Excavation, Inc. to perform sanitary sewer improvements along Crater Lake Highway and Delta Waters Road in accordance with the City of Medford Sanitary Sewer Master Plan. Item 60.3, Council Bill 2025-38, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of a 2-year contract with Professional Credit Service effective July 1st, 2025, and with the option to renew for an additional 2-year term to provide collection agency services for municipal court and utility billing, utilizing the State of Oregon Price Agreement, PO number formerly DASP 3360-20. Item 60.4, Council Bill 2025-39, an ordinance approving and authorizing a real estate purchase agreement with the Messer family in the amount of $442,000 to purchase a 40.21 acre parcel adjacent to Prescott Park.
All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Kevin?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
So we are moved and seconded. Are there any items to be removed?
I request removal of 60.4.
60.4. Let's see. We will ballot on the remaining items. Winnie, could we have roll call, please?
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Garrett West,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
Mike Kurlinger,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
and John Quinn.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
60.4.
I'd like to request a brief staff report and then announce I need to recuse myself for potential conflict of interest.
Okay.
Mayor Council, Rich Rosenthal, your Parks Recreation Facilities Department Director, and I was curious to know where that photo was taken. It was Chile. 60.4 is the culmination of negotiation with the Messer family to acquire 2 40-acre park blocks. This one comes to council because it involves tax lot 204, and that is what the city is going to buy. If you approve this, they will donate tax lot 500, which is adjacent to Prescott Park. It's a grand total of 80 acres, something that the city has been keen on wanting to acquire for many years. It allows the department, it gives us the ability, the city, the ability to expand the trail system in Prescott Park, to enlarge the community park that's already very popular, and to improve access to the Vista Point neighborhood, which is in the Oregon Hills Park neighborhood, and specifically the neighborhood along Bordeaux Avenue in East Medford. This is Ward 1, and we're grateful for the Medford, the Messer family. They go back generations. They've owned this land for a long time, and so their family is very excited about the possibility of having a trail named for them as a result of this transaction.
Great. Thank you, Rich. Any questions or a motion? How about a motion, Kevin?
I move to approve Council Bill 2025, TAC 39.
Second.
Second is Jessica Ayers. Discussion. Yes.
I was actually at Prescott Park last week for an 8th grade field trip at McLaughlin Middle School. Went up there, and it's pretty amazing what's being done. I mean, this thing will probably be done and built way after we have left the earth, but in terms of all the development opportunities. But it's one of those things that when you're looking at getting this land and the potential it has for the city as it continues to grow, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the future for what this can do positively for the city. Just like certain things that happened before us have come and gone, and we got to realize the benefits. This is something that people in the future will get to fully realize the benefits of what's going to happen in the entirety of Prescott Park, but especially as we keep acquiring this valuable land.
Thank you, Kevin. Seeing none, will you call the roll? Thanks, Rich.
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
and Mike Kurlinger.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
All right. The matter passes. We'll move on to ordinances and resolution. There is one ordinance for consideration tonight. Mr. Moreland.
Yes, item 80.1, Council Bill 2025-40, an ordinance authorizing approving the execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation pertaining to the installation of speed feedback signs on 8 city streets.
Thank you. Would anyone like a staff report or have any direct questions? I'll then entertain a motion. Mr. Stein.
I move to approve Council Bill 2025, TAC 40.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Mr. Kurlinger.
I just wanted to point out, I verified that these are going to be the feedback signs that have the little flashing light to let us know when it is a 20 mile an hour and when it's not. And those are my favorite ones because I don't have to guess if it's a school zone when I'm driving through or not. So thanks for whoever had that idea.
Other items of discussion. Winnie, will you call the roll?
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
Garrett West,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
Mike Kurlinger,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
and Kevin Keating.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
Motion passes, and we will speed mightily to committee reports and communications, specifically council officers update. Mr. Card.
Thank you, Your Honor. We had a pretty exciting new sceneried council officers meeting today. First item on the agenda was a United Way. The city is going to participate in a United Way campaign with staff to hopefully help fundraising for the good work that United Way does. We had an update from City Manager Field on the OR7 meetings. We're seeing growth in that group, so it's not just city managers, but we also have HR directors as well as financial managers, city treasurers, perhaps we might say, and assistant city managers. We have seen some real legislative and policy wins out of the OR7. This is a group that is now starting to gain a voice. We've had a few sort of, hopefully we'll see them go all the way across the finish line, but already some of the progress we've made in Salem on just getting some stuff through one chamber, one committee is pretty impressive. So I'm excited for what this looks like in the future. Last item on the agenda, we had a conversation about speed limits in downtown, and specifically on Central and Riverside. There was a bit of a conversation about the specific requirements that it takes in order for us to make changes to the speed limits. Short version is ODOT gets to control that process, and we don't really have a say in it other than to ask ODOT nicely to take a look. And so out of that meeting, staff is seeking direction, so I would like to make a motion related to this. I move to direct staff to study speed zones, and speed camera locations downtown, and provide council with options and a recommendation for any changes.
Second.
We can just, all those in favor say aye.
Hang on.
Sorry, discussion. Thank you, Kevin.
What are we classifying as downtown? Is this within the boundary of, like the kind of Mira downtown? Is this the parking district downtown? What is the downtown? This is probably a question that's been asked for like 10 years.
John, can you just give me a sense of what you understand
what's gonna go be
to
studied?
mean, and then
Are we
you
in the
can-
downtown right now?
Yeah. Can you? Yeah. Just help me understand what you take that to mean, and then we'll adjust it.
The downtown is a big area. The complaints and the concerns have been associated with Main Street, Court, and Riverside, and I would think that if we looked at those three streets, it would probably be sufficient, unless council would like us to look broader than that.
By this motion, I think intend to mean a more broad look. I'd like to see us, what I mean for this is a more holistic look, not just on those streets where we have comments, but I know like the Holly Theater is now opening, and so that means we have more pedestrian activity on 6th Street, or the speeds that we've set on 6th Street, which have been that way for, geez, God knows how long they've been that way. Are those still appropriate in light of more activity thanks to the Holly Theater? Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but there's been a lot of changes downtown. And to me, we've sort of piecemealed a lot of this, and I think it's time for us to take a more holistic look, especially as we've turned so much focus to downtown.
Yeah, and I think if that's the case, you know, a boundary, something like Jackson to 12th Street on the north and south, Oakdale on the west to the freeway, something like that.
That sounds good to me. Does anyone have any concerns with that? Kevin?
Yeah, as you expand, you know, the amount of space, you're expanding the amount of time that it takes to get the study back. So I guess there's that. It's do you want to have the main streets that are complaints, or do you really want to really go big and large at this? Are we looking more at, maybe we look more at the streets that have more of the issues today in terms of complaints, and then maybe in the future we look a little bit deeper at the other downtown areas that maybe don't have the kind of more vibrant discussion on hand.
Yeah.
I kind of like looking at some streets individually, and then we can, once that's kind of settled from a policy standpoint, maybe we take another dig a little bit deeper onto other streets.
Any other comments? Mike?
As far as the study goes, I'm assuming we're talking about data specific to these locations and not generic studies for how speed affects safety or how the red light cameras operate. 'Cause
Sure,
I'm
we
assuming that
have
data is
that
available.
already.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought I saw. John, do we have historical data to compare to if you do this study, or is this going to be our baseline for these areas?
We have historical data for speeds. We have historical data for crash locations. I think there's a fair amount of data that we could review to take a look at this. And Mr. Card, per Kevin's question, a lot of that boundary that I described are residential streets that were residential in the past and are still residential today. I think a lot of these streets are going to be pretty quick checkoffs. I think 6th Street's a good example that Mr. Card noted that maybe needs a little deeper look. Main, I think there'll be additional streets to take a look at, but a lot of these are also going to be, they look the same today as they looked 50 years ago.
I think I do agree with Kevin, and I guess maybe the question would be, perhaps, I agree with him in the sense of, like, I do want to prioritize some of these more problem, and so I don't want to drag out a process. I mean, are you confident, John, in saying that this boundary, you don't think that's a lot, or is this a piecemeal thing that, like, we can check off the high priority ones first and then get some conversation as we dig down? Because I do think those are also important to revisit, again, in more of a holistic look.
I think what will likely happen is we will take a look at all these streets and we'll probably make a list of them and say, here's all the streets that are by statute are 25-mile-an-hour residential districts. We would recommend they stay 25. We'll bring that to council unless someone says, no, we want you to look at that one. Those are all done, and then we're going to end up with a much smaller sample that we really need to dig into details on.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other discussion? Are we ready to move to a motion, or does anyone have any problems with this?
So what are we doing?
Move to a vote, or does anyone have any problems?
Tell me what we're doing.
Moving to direct staff to study speed zones, and speed cameras downtown, and provide council with options and recommendation for any changes.
Okay. So is it kind of like, are we going to get the whole bag at once, or are we going to kind of tier it where we're going to go, here's a couple main ones, kind of like what John said at the end?
That would be my intent. Are you good with that, John? Is that what you're hearing from our direction?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing, and that's also what I would prefer. What I don't want to do is go do a whole bunch of study on stuff that doesn't interest you. We're going to look at it, and we think these are probably pretty clear. We'll just check with you to make sure that they are clear, and then that really narrows down the stuff that we need to dig into more detail.
Great.
All right, this works for me. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Great. Thank you, staff. That concludes the council officers. Are there any committee or commission reports? Mr. West?
I attended the Medford Water Commission today by Zoom. 2 issues came up. Number one, we're still having issues with the Postal Service. Several of our water customers are receiving their water bills via mail many weeks late, so they're prioritizing how to get those to customers in a much more timely fashion. And then the Water Commission also discussed the ways in which they're better preparing for emergencies. So, thank you.
Any other commission or committee reports?
Oh, just, what does that mean, I guess?
Which part? The emergencies?
Yeah.
They discussed the committees they have amongst staff to go over their emergency preparedness procedures and develop those in a more thorough fashion. That's the gist I got out of it.
Oh, more about their actual response.
Their response, not their infrastructure strategic plans.
Any others, or I'll go? All right. I had 2. I attended a meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee for MIRA 2.0. We did a comprehensive review of the proposed MIRA district and provided staff with specific change recommendations. So they're going to go ahead and draw up a new map with some of the different changes. And we are sort of barreling in towards being able to provide a concrete map and begin the rest of the process for getting the 2nd district engaged. It's some boundary issues, and I see your face.
Did you do a physical tour?
No, we didn't do a physical tour. We did a Google Street View tour, and it was riveting. Second item is attended the Regional Rate Committee meeting. We had a rotation of officers. I am now the chair of the Regional Rate Committee, unlucky enough to have that position. And we passed, it's the one busy meeting of the year, congratulations Mike, you missed it, where we adopted all of the rate change documents for the next sort of set of calendar years. So typically the regional rate has everything planned out for rate increases based on needs, but then we adopt those specific rates into the documents on like a 3 or 5 year cycle. So That was the really exciting that we had today. It was a riveting meeting. It took 45 minutes, which was a heck of a long time since these things normally take 15. And that is my last report. Mr. Grillinger.
I had to find my notes, sorry. We had a Housing Advisory Commission meeting on the 14th. It was fairly brief. They discussed the grant application process for HOF funds, which I feel went smoothly for them on this round. They're going to continue using the Neighborly system, I believe it's called. And we did get a review of the ADU-SDC fee reduction that the city's been being offered, and it's actually had really good success and traction in the community. So they were happy with that. Probably going to recommend to continue that going forward.
I did have just a second, Kevin. I just had one more thing on the regional rate I forgot to bring up. The regional rate committee exists because of an agreement between the city of Medford and RVSS. And so some of the way that it's the wastewater treatment facility is funded and the different funds are all captured in that specific agreement. As part of the construction and improvements of the wastewater treatment facility, we have established additional funds. Those actually need to be recognized into that agreement. So there will be an amendment to that agreement that will come to us. It's going to go to the RVSS board to be approved, and it'll have to come to council. So we'll see that at some point in time. I don't know exactly the timing of that, but that way you're aware when it comes up. It's for things that are all stuff we've seen a million times. It's just the last bits of paperwork to take care of things.
Can you speak to the amount of increase and what's driving it?
A lot, and DEQ. Is that?
So my question would be, number one, that the regional rate approves it, but it also comes back to council
Yes.
for approval. And if just a little bit of number one, do you know what we're expecting percent-wise? And also, is it all pretty much the wastewater treatment plant improvement?
Yeah, it's all the wastewater treatment. We're looking at 15% increases year over year in SDCs and in ratepayer rates. There's some nuance in those exact numbers, but they're all driven by the cost of the wastewater facility. I'm sure Ryan is itching to come down and tell us all about the exciting bonds and rates and no, I'm just kidding. And so the way it works with this agreement for those who are new is the regional rate committee is a group that has 2 members of city council and 2 members of RVSS board, and they set the rates that the wastewater treatment plant charges to users. And so the wastewater treatment plant bills against the city of Medford and RVSS. So when the regional rate committee adopts new rates, that changes the amount of money that RVSS and Medford have to pay into the operation of the wastewater treatment. We then have to take a separate action if we want to charge that to our ratepayers, and so does RVSS. And so if we decide we don't want to pass that on to our ratepayers, we could do that, but then we would still have an obligation to pay that to the wastewater treatment plant to keep that running, or to with the regional rates. So there is, anytime rates increase, there is other action that comes back to us to pass those rate increases on to the ratepayers. And so this is step 1 in that process. Kevin.
Yeah, myself and the mayor went to the winter spring event that they had on Saturday, and it was the first time I've ever seen that wall. If you're ever driving around, Donahue Fronmeyer, and you have a moment, just like take a look. It's very well done. I was thinking it was like bricks. It was not. It's like rock that's there, and I was wondering how they put the names in there. They literally have a person, like no matter where the rock is, like chisel it into the rock that's already there for all the different names. And I saw some names of, I don't know if all those ones the city has paid for, but people that the city has kind of been involved with. So like there's Senator Alan Bates, Bill Thorndike, which we just did recently, Jim Hutchins that we just did in the previous year, Skip Knight, who was a city councilor maybe 15, 20 years ago, and then Lou Hannum, who was a mayor back in the, I think, late 80s, early 90s. So it's kind of neat. And anyone, like, it's not a city, the city owns the park, but anyone can go to Winter Spring and have a loved one's name put in there. So it's really nice how everything was, set up and well maintained by our our city.
Any other board and commission reports? Any other councilor business? Mr. Quinn.
At our prior council officers meeting last week, we had a conversation about whether we should consider enacting time, place, manner restrictions on where new marijuana businesses could be, not getting rid of existing ones, just where new ones could be. And apropos of that, Mr. Mitten and I did some research, and there is a statute, ORS 475C.4492, that does seem to authorize generally time, place, manner restrictions on locations, and then specifically, at least by implication, authorizes us to prohibit new businesses being within 1,000 feet of an existing one. So this would not take away people's existing businesses. It would only mean you can't open a new one unless there's a certain distance. It would prevent concentration. So apropos of that, I would like to make a motion specifically limited to the 1,000-foot situation rather than a broader motion to just general time, place, manner, which is a much broader question. And the motion is that I move to direct staff to initiate a code change to require that any new marijuana businesses be located at least 1,000 feet from existing marijuana businesses. And that's pursuant to the ORS statute I mentioned earlier.
Is that, John, any, did you say just downtown, or is that in general in the city limits?
Downtown, one of the things I thought, first of all, the statute would not limit it to downtown, and I didn't necessarily want to discriminate against any particular group or really anyone by focusing on a particular region. I think it would be citywide.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Jessica.
So what's to stop, another business from coming to us and saying, I own a flower shop and I feel like there's too many flower shops in this town and I don't want you to allow any flower shops within 1,000 feet from mine?
Because the distinction there is you'd have to fall back on our general power to regulate time, place, manner restrictions, which are always fact-driven and always beg for litigation. In this case, under the particular statute, the legislature's already contemplated having a restriction for this particular kind of business, for that particular type of distance. So they've already vetted type of business and distance for us. We're not jumping into a can of worms that hasn't already been looked at by our legislature and given guidance to us upon.
Mike.
Is that state ordinance limited to marijuana and cannabis, or does it include other business types?
Marijuana. It's in the marijuana licensing section. 475C is the chapter for that. That was why I answered Councilor Ayer's question the way I did. We do have other authorities such as, car washes, gas stations, any number of other things, but that would be, in the absence of a specific statute, you'd be falling back on a more potentially litigious area because you'd be much more totality of the circumstances. Here we already have the legislature telling us something that they felt good enough about to put in the statute.
Mike. Just for a point of clarification, if we vote yes on this, staff is going to draft something, bring it to us for a reading, at which point we can ask additional questions or clarification or ask them to make amendments, correct?
Yeah, if we're directing staff to do something about it, staff will come back with a recommendation. If they don't feel like, I'd hope, I think I know Eric well enough to say that if Eric didn't feel like what he was bringing back was something that was legally enforceable, he would also tell us at that time. So we would have an opportunity to see specific language, what is actually being said, and a review of law from staff so we understand the legality of it. Kevin.
Yeah, so the one question is of process. So there's different ways to go about getting things to the dais. One of them is we immediately go to a study session and the council looks at it and decides if they want to move forward. The other one is that staff does it, takes it through the planning commission, and then brings it back through us because it's land use, right? Mm-hmm. And so it would be after being vetted by planning commission before we would see it for the first time. So this is just a general question. I'm fine with whatever. But do you just want to have the council make a policy decision first and then run it through planning? Or is the direction to have, hey, ran it through planning first and then we see it? Because there could be, council looks at it like, nope, we have no interest in any of this. Or it could be, okay, yeah, we do want to go through, take it through planning, have the public discussion, and then bring it back to council.
So if we just do it as a study session, we can bypass planning, or
No.
have to do it either way?
No, the question is, do you want to have council take a look first and then say, yes, we want to move forward and take it through planning? I'd say the potential pitfall is you bring it through planning and then the council looks at it and like, oh, we don't want to do with it. Then you kind of wasted planning's time.
We can take a look at it first. The reason I wasn't so gung-ho about having to take a look at it first is because of the narrowness of the motion I'm proposing. If I were proposing, let's look at general time, place, manner restrictions, such as not near a school, such as not near a park, such as not in downtown, whatever, that would be much more totality of the circumstances and much more areas where our views could differ and we'd really need to hash it out. The 1,000-foot is a very specific thing, very specifically in the statute, that we either like or we don't. There's not a lot of play in that wheel, but I'm open either way.
Yes, Mike.
If it's already in state statute, is there a need for us to enact a city ordinance, or does statute just give us the ability to adopt that?
The latter.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Can I ask it?
Oh, yeah. I thought you were pointing at someone over here, and I'm like, but there's no hands.
So, I'm just going to throw this out as to narrow it down. If there's 6 people very, very passionate about moving this forward, then go directly to planning commission. If there's not, or if you're like, want to know more, I would do the study session first.
That's a fair statement.
I personally would like to know more before we send this to planning, because I don't think you're lying to me, John. Haven't looked at the language. I don't know what the consequences would be. There's a lot more that I would want to understand before we push a policy like this to planning, in my opinion. Kevin.
Yeah, I agree. In a way, I just want to know more about the unintended consequences, or think about that a little bit as far as, how far 1,000 feet is, and pushing them out into the neighborhoods might not be a great plan either. So I'd go for a study session.
Any other comments?
I'll just comment that does seem very fair, and also while we're talking in the study session, maybe some people will want to have broader time, place, manner other than the 1,000. Don't know. But that would be a place where we could all visit about that as well.
All righty. Do we need to specify that in our direction, or is that can be understood by staff as from our conversation? All right. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Can you restate the motion?
Let's restate the motion.
I can. I move to direct staff to initiate a code change to require that any new marijuana businesses be located at least 1,000 feet from the existing marijuana business. And I would urge us to have a study session first to talk about it.
Kevin's the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Staff is so directed. Any other council business? Back to you, Your Honor.
All right, thanks. I will give a mayor report. I, of course, attended the Winter Spring event with Kevin. It was a really good event in the organization. I don't know. It was just really nice what they did. So I also am a member of the OR7 Mayors Group that was talked about, not the Mayors Group, but all the other ones. And for those of you who don't know, that's populations 2 through 8 in Oregon. I can list them, but I'd have to pause and think. 2 of the big things that we talked about, a lot of the sort of potential revenue revisions, I guess, that were kicked around in the state, and that didn't get much traction this time. The group is interested in continuing to pursue those. I would like to kind of give some information to Ryan Martin that could come before the Budget Stabilization Committee that I think would be helpful to look at. So with that, also there's a lot of proposed revisions through the Oregon Government Ethics Commission to the point of you would not be able to speak to the media about agenda items. You would not be allowed to talk to other counselors about agenda items, and just really just ratcheting down, if anything, any kind of discourse or public information. And so there's a lot of concern about that, about not being able to basically engage with the public or even fellow council members. Again, this kind of comes down from a body that is not subject to the same rules. The legislature would not be subject to that. Genius. So, I'll keep my eye on that and keep you guys posted, but some of the other stuff, any rate, we'll work with staff on that. Okay, Mr. Field, last chance for a staff report.
We'll defer to the next meeting.
Great. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned at 7:33.
We do an exec session next or
I
Mira
think
next?
we're doing a mural, right?
Mira study session. Yeah, Mira's next.
Okay, Mira's next at 7:33. Meeting will start at 7:40.
Hey, Winnie, do we have more of these hidden somewhere?
Mr. Chairman, it is 7:40. Mr. Chair, it's 7:41. America's waiting on you, Kevin.
I don't have the nice little thing that tells me what to say, so.
It's just a study session. Just wing it.
Okay, it is now a study session, so I don't even need this gavel that I grabbed from the mayor. All right, we all here, and it doesn't matter because it's a study session, so we don't need quorum or anything like that. So I will turn this over. I don't even know your title anymore.
City contractor.
Independent, contracted, Harry Weiss.
Gadabout, you can call me whatever you want. My new title is Urban Renewal Project Specialist. Okay, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's nice to see you all again. I think this is actually the first dedicated study session we've had since January, when we just briefly looked at the capital tracker. So there's a number of you who have a lot of history with these projects, and there's some of you that this is all new, and so it's going to be a bit of review and reiteration for you all, and something new. I hope that I can get you all in the ballpark. So I have 3 project updates that I want to share with you. The most exciting one is the status of the Element Hotel. This is the project that we've been working on now for almost 6 years at the corner of 4th and Bartlett Street, just north of Pear Blossom Park. Mura acquired this property in a property exchange with Lithia Real Estate, and for the purposes, they were willing to do an exchange with us for the purposes of getting a new downtown hotel. So that project met with considerable headwinds starting in 2020 with the arrival of COVID and the collapse of hospitality and travel. Then as we emerged out of that, there were issues with supply chain and material costs. But we are finally back on track, and the project has progressed substantially. The project was originally a Residence Inn by Marriott. The developers, Western Hospitality LLC from Grand Junction, Colorado, switched and went to Marriott to get an Element Hotel flag for that property. By doing that, they shrunk the property down a little bit and made it a little bit more cost-effective product at a very similar price point. Residence Inn and Element are have a lot in common in terms of their demographic and price point that they focus on. The project has been through SPAC, has full approval. Western Hospitality has received a loan package from Bank of Colorado, who they do work with back in Colorado. They came out about a month ago. We spent 2 days with them touring them around their entire region. They were very excited to pursue the opportunity in this market. Western Hospitality has accepted the terms. They've worked out all the equity terms with that deal. And just as a side note, the bank's appraisal of the project came in at $35 million for the purposes of the underwriting. What?
I can't believe that.
Well, you can take it up with their appraiser. Okay, one of the big things that was outstanding in our development agreement is that we had structured this that the purchase price of the property would be determined as we came closer to actually transacting and the exercise of the option. The reason for that is that we acquired the property. At the time that we acquired it, it was worth $1.5 million. Of course, at that time, the property had 3 income-producing buildings on it, as well as, and the entire thing was leased back to Lithia, so they leased the parking as well as had offices in the buildings. So since that time, we have done a number of things to prepare the property for redevelopment. We demolished the buildings. That was about $200,000. We relocated the major gas line that Avista had that went up the middle of the site and relocated it into the right-of-way on Bartlett Street, which is another $150,000. And the only remaining utility question, it has to do with some overhead electrical and the fact that there's a transformer on the site that actually serves common block across 4th Street. So we wanted to be able to get the property as fully set as possible and appraise it in its current value with the improvements that have been made so that we have a clean starting point for the determination of value. I'll explain a little bit later about why that's important with regard to avoiding prevailing wage and how we structure our financial support for the project. So we just got the updated appraisal last week. It is still $1.5 million, but again, it has changed from being a 1.65 acre parcel to 1.89 because of the anticipated vacation, the removal of the buildings, and the relocation of the utilities. In our DDA, the purchase price was capped at $1.75 million. And based on the appraisal, if it came in lower than that, that would be the purchase price. If it came in above that, it was discretionary for the developer to pay 1.75 or more or cancel the deal. So the price is 1.5, and we're moving forward with that. The only other work that Mura has to do is in our DDA, we have a contract obligation to initiate and complete the vacation of 3rd and Apple Street as a condition precedent to closing. The developer may actually waive that if they choose to close earlier before that vacation is complete. We're not anticipating that, but that is totally their discretion, and I don't think we would object if they wanted to do that instead. The next update, I'll go into more detail about the vacation. At this juncture, we are anticipating closing in August, and our development agreement calls for construction start within 45 days of closing. So we're looking at shovels in the ground in September, maybe late August, depending on when we get all this done. The other feature of our DDA is that we have committed to paying up to $1 million of the SDCs and development fees that we would pay directly to the City of Medford, to the Water Commission, to the Building Department for building permits, in addition to a $749,999 incentive grant that would be a direct cash contribution to the developer. So, again, reiterating for those of you who've been on the board for a while, under state statute regarding prevailing wage, whenever there is $750,000 or more dollars of funds of a public agency that are left in a private development project, that project becomes subject to prevailing wage. One of the statutory exceptions is we can pay SDCs and development fees directly, and they do not count towards that $749,999 threshold. This is how we did the deal with Las Ayala at Genesis Apartments. We paid for certain things, we paid for the SDCs, and kept the cash contribution, the public funds in the project, well below the $750,000 mark. And that $1,750,000 was somewhat predicated on our anticipated purchase price of $1.75 million. Basically, the proceeds of sale go to pay for the incentives that Mura is providing. I do not expect that we will come near $1 million in the development fees and SDCs. One of the things that we capture is we capture all of the existing SDC credits for the improvements that we removed that come with the property. So I don't have all the estimates in, but I think the city's portion of sewer, sanitary, street, and parks was about $550,000, and we have a $224,000 credit. So that brings that down to whatever it is, three something. The only other piece would be, I don't have a number yet from Medford Water Commission for their SDCs. So things are well teed up. As I said, the next thing that you all will be seeing is the vacation. But before I get there, a couple of years ago, I did a quick down and dirty just as an order of magnitude estimate to show you what the tax implications are of this development. Let me first say that the property taxes that will be assessed against this property, this is an enterprise zone eligible project. Hotels are a specifically authorized use for Oregon Enterprise Zone. So the Western Hospitality will be applying through Soretti for the 3-year property tax abatement. The other problem about trying to project what the future property taxes will be on the building is that it's a bit opaque in terms of how the assessor brings new development on the rolls. It's phased in over the course of construction, and there's a 77% ratio application to value. So I can't tell you how it's going to hit the tax rolls. But I can give you a projection of TLT. So the hotel has 134 rooms, and their pro forma at full occupancy and stabilized occupancy is an 80% occupancy rate, which is what they achieve with their products in Colorado, and is something that's tied in with Element Hotels because we don't have an Element Hotel in this region. And we can always change that number. Like I said, this is an order of magnitude calculation. And their ADR is $180 a night. So in this chart here, you see that would generate, and that's probably the high-end estimate, it generates about $775,000 of TLT. If you adjust that occupancy rate down and you adjust the ADR down, obviously the TLT will reduce with it. But as a best-case scenario, I think as an order of magnitude, this is a benchmark that we'll see how it performs as it actually gets implemented. Mr. Quinn. Nice to see you too.
Turn your mic on.
Thank you. So we had a presentation from Travel Medford earlier where the occupancy, I want to say in hotels, 55. Yes, I remembered, but thanks. 55%, and I see this is 80%. How are they getting so much more occupancy, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know what Travel Medford's occupancy numbers are based on and what product it is. I do know that there are other hotels in our region that have significantly higher occupancy rates than 55. One of the things that I would question off the top of my head is we've had a fair number of new hotels that have come in at kind of a lower level product, cheaper product that kind of caters. I think some of the conversation was, well, is this where teams traveling for baseball competitions or basketball competitions are going to stay? Those tend to be lower value or lower ADR products. They're not going to be booking rooms at the Element Hotel. That's and this is also based on national Marriott data relative to how Element performs in various markets around the country. So yes, it's a fungible number, but this is the numbers that we have been given that I wanted to share with you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Card.
So I just want to point out to Harry's point about this being still an impressive number. Running these using the peak ADR rate from the Travel Medford presentation, which is $138 a night, and their 55% occupancy number, it's still $408,000 a year in TLT. So that's still not a small number. And to push back on some of the skepticism, I think, this will probably be the nicest hotel in Medford when it's built. And it'll be one of the nicest. What? Your skepticism is noted. So I do think there's, I'm skeptical of their occupancy numbers, but I can see them with a higher room rate. I mean, you look at what is the, the Margaritaville hotel is going for, it's not that far off of $180 on average. But even using those numbers, this is still a great project.
Keating, did you have something?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you.
So, I've looked at a couple, I'm in the middle of doing 2 hotel deals and have looked at current appraisal information. This is high, for our area. So, I love the project. I'm not opposed to it. I just think that this, both occupancy and ADR for Medford are a little optimistic.
I would just kind of run it back to how our role is. It's great that this project is happening. If the numbers come out a little bit different, this is not a public-private partnership. So This is not something that's going to indebt the city or Mira. They see it and their investors see it as a positive, and I'm glad that we have them moving forward.
I think my intent, as I said, these are fungible numbers, and nobody's promising to actually be held to this performance.
Ryan is shaking his head. He's very disappointed. He's expecting all this money now.
I think the more important thing in terms of understanding what the order of magnitude is, when it comes to what Mura is putting in the project, it's paid back in 3 years, 3 to 4 years. So, for our contribution, it leverages a $35 million investment in downtown that pays back its public tax support in a matter of 3 to 4 years. I call that a win.
Yeah, of course. Anything else on the hotel before we move on? All right.
Okay. So the vacation of 3rd and Apple, I want to make sure that you all understand that when we initiated this conversation about doing this project, we bought a block of downtown bounded by 4th and 3rd, Apple, and Bartlett. Western Hospitality bought additional land on the other side of Apple with the idea that we would be able to assemble that by vacating Apple Street to create a large enough area to house this hotel and its on-site parking. In that original concept, we were going to vacate all of Apple between 3rd and 4th, and only the southern half of Apple along the frontage of the hotel. And let me just jump ahead to this picture. And leaving Apple's 3rd Street as a one-lane, one-way street eastbound heading out to Jackson. As we looked at that and saw that there were a number of both traffic issues surrounding that, we still retain liability for the right-of-way, and there's right-of-way management and all those kind of things. In consultation with Public Works and in consultation with the other adjoining property owners, the idea was, let's just vacate the whole thing and just consolidate these three blocks into a single block. And so everybody is on board. All the property owners have agreed to do that, to support that. So this shows you how the consolidation of these blocks will occur. Living Waters Church on the north, they get half of 3rd Street. Element Hotel gets half of 3rd Street. Cannabiz up on the corner of Riverside and Jackson gets a little bit of 3rd Street, and Soul Savers gets a little bit of Apple, and majority of Apple goes to them. So we are submitting a request for the council to initiate the vacation, and that application will have the consent of all the property owners. So you're going to be seeing this as council. And again, keeping track of which hat we're wearing, y'all are, as council, will be reviewing a proposal that's coming from you as the board of directors of Mira. So have fun. The vacation process will proceed through land development review and the planning commission, with final action anticipated by council on August 6th, if we can meet all the calendar deadlines for notice. There will be an earlier thing that you all do in July. You actually have to meet and initiate the vacation and set the hearing date, which will be August 6th. So you'll see this sooner than August 6th, but the final decision will be on August 6th. In terms of what happens, and we'll go into detail with this when you all look at this as council. If you notice the little purple marks about where there are public improvements on the frontages around this new block, the hotel, because all the hotel was going to do was, originally we're just going to do the smaller vacation, they're going to take care of the, where 3rd Street and Bartlett meet up at the north west corner of their site, as well as what happens on the property at the southeast corner adjacent to Soul Savers, because that's all within the scope of their site development. They're going to demolish everything and then rebuild, extend the sidewalks, and put in the driveway stuff. Mira is going to pick up the closure of 3rd Street at Jackson, which is the extension of the sidewalk across that mouth and the provision of driveway access to the cannabis property that currently enjoys corner access onto Jackson and Riverside. So with that said, just a quick heads up, like I said, this is coming at you as both council, and there won't be any MURA actions that you need to take any further on this project, but you will see it as city council. Any questions?
Go ahead.
So with that vacation, does that create block length concerns for that area?
Yes, it does. Thank you for catching that. We wind up exceeding block length in one location along Jackson and block perimeter overall. There is some there's some fudge room in the ordinance about being able to exceed block length or block perimeter by a certain percentage. This is right at the threshold of that. One of the requirements is that where you do, you have to have a pedestrian access way easement through the block. Living Waters Church has agreed to provide it along the sidewalk on the south side of the building, because they're not going to change anything in 3rd Street. They're going to use that as a driveway and access to their property, and they're going to leave the sidewalk in place. So part of that will be the grant of the public access way across their property, parallel with the alignment of 3rd Street today down to Bartlett.
Mr. Quinn.
Harry, the purple lines are going to become sidewalks, essentially not passable. Am I understanding correctly?
Right, those are extensions of sidewalk.
Okay. So one of the concerns with block length, of course, is pedestrian access, et cetera, but it's also emergency vehicle access.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to be doing that if we're putting sidewalks where roads were? Or how are we planning the emergency vehicle access?
Well, so the fire department, in their review at SPAC, the preferred firefighting platform area is along Bartlett Street, because that's adjacent, that's the closest spot to the side of the building at its highest elevation. So they'll, I don't know, do I have a marker on here? I don't. So that frontage of the Element Hotel on Bartlett is where they will stage firefighting and any aerial apparatus if they need it. Okay. Because 3rd Street, half of it is going to remain open as a vehicular lane, as a driveway for Living Waters. We've talked with them, at least initially, about whether they want to be able to pull a truck through along that alignment and out to Jackson. We'll make accommodations in the driveway aprons to allow them to enter along that, and they basically are coming onto private property at that point if they would need to. But again, looking at the way the information we've received so far from fire, they have adequate firefighting access to Living Waters on Bartlett and Jackson, and have adequate firefighting access along 4th and Bartlett for the hotel.
Okay.
Mr. Curlinger.
At the intersection of Apple and 4th, where there's the new sidewalk, is that also going to be an apron? Because I'm assuming that's probably going to be a driveway.
Yeah, they're going to take
Element.
they're going to take their half of
Okay.
Apple and use it as access to their property. So that sidewalk extension will use a driveway apron there too.
So that's another place for vehicular access. If they're coming in
Yep.
from that side, they can get almost to the center of this block
Yep.
from there.
Great. Anything further on this? Seeing none. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Beatty Street. And this is what I'm going to need a little bit more clear direction and discussion from the board about how you would like to participate. So this is a property that we identified and discussed with the board a number of years ago. It's a block in Liberty Park that had really complicated historical title problems because of things that were done in the 1920s. Briefly, what happened was the city actually acquired this entire plat through a tax foreclosure and a transfer from Jackson County. The city then started selling off lots and sold off part of the right-of-way that was originally platted without having ever vacated the right-of-way. And then they wound up owning the red portions that you see here on this map. The original alley is shown in, or what remains of the original alley is shown in yellow. So that dashed portion on the left-hand lots was the right-of-way that the city sold in 1924, 25, 26. Anyway, so it's kind of a mess. What we have done is we acquired the 5 parcels that you see there facing Beatty, which is on the left-hand side, demolished 3 blighted residential structures, and we have corrected the title problems. In addition, through the city's disposition policy, real estate disposition policy, the red portions have been disposed of to adjoining property owners. And we are about ready to record all the quitclaim deeds for those transactions. Mira, you all approved this a couple of months back. We rededicated the alley to take care of some of these title issues and actually widened it to make it a 20-foot alley rather than a 15-foot alley. So what you see in this view is those 5 parcels and the alley that remain in Mira's ownership. All the surrounding uses are residential, either single family or multifamily, and the property is zoned CC, which allows for multifamily housing at a minimum of 20 dwelling units per gross acre. So I've been working with a fellow named Werner Constanza, who has Better Built Construction, really interesting, dynamic go-getter. He has expressed interest about developing moderate income multifamily housing on this site. And his proposal is to do it in a phased approach using a prototypical building, which is a 3-story, 12-unit apartment building, and putting one of those on each of 3 lots. So we would be involved in doing a lot line configuration to create 3 lots and in doing a DDA with him, give him the option to purchase and implement this. So when we did the Genesis Apartments with Laz Ayala, the deal that we struck is we sold him the land at fair market value, and then we paid for his SDCs. We did put up some front money to do the architectural design work and get the construction documents. That was in part so that the board had a very clear understanding of what the product would be and what it would look like and how it would fit in downtown. And then the remainder up, and we wound up putting about $1.2 million into that project. The remainder of it, about $342,000, became a direct cash incentive grant. So in talking with Werner, we're talking about wanting to see if the board is willing to consider a similar approach to this project. Financial assistance for designing the prototypical building, because it's always a pre-development expense that's hard to, to fund for out of pocket. And then that we would pay the SDCs as similar as we did with Genesis Apartments. So the design work is probably, it's not a significant amount of money. I doubt, I think we spent $237,000 for the Genesis Apartment, so I don't think we'd be more than half of that in this project. But it would be at risk that we would front that money, we would help fund that. But we would also have some control and influence over the design if that's something the board wants to be involved with.
Would this take up the entirety of the land that we own, or just a portion of the land that we own?
No. So everything that's in white with the green stripe around it in the image, that is the parcel that we own, as well as the gray stripe on the back. What this image shows is yellow is the alleyway. That's all of our property. The green is a 10-foot PUE as required by code. And the gray shows perpendicular parking accessed off of the alley as the drive aisle.
But like in the image you showed us at the beginning, this is everything we own?
Everything we
Okay.
own. Right, that's all ours.
How many units does Werner build a year? Do you know?
I don't know.
Are they like a smaller, are there a smaller construction, medium, like, this is like a big company? I've never heard of them before. So I'm just curious if, are they out of, where are they out of?
He's here in the valley, and I've seen a number of his projects. He's done projects of similar scale. He's done commercial work. I think he's a pretty solid.
So
builder.
local developer.
Yeah.
Okay. Jessica.
have so many questions. So, the 400,000 that we've valued this on the sheet here, is that still what we're looking at for these 3 parcels as far as value?
Just like we did with the hotel, we will have to have these parcels reappraised.
Okay.
So that's a plug number at this point.
So are you proposing that, number one, that because he wants to do this in phases, would he buy each parcel one by one?
Well, what he's talked about, so his banker is Evergreen, and they've talked about a program to help him phase this in, rather than, instead of trying to take down and do a whole 36-unit single apartment building in one fell swoop, wants to break it up. And
I get
from a
it.
massing standpoint, it works.
Lease it up
more.
and then do the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if we would have him buy the entire site, all 3 parcels at one time, or that we would do the first one, and then he would have the option on parcel number 2 and parcel number 3,
Yeah.
and that we would grow into it over time, as opposed to having to take it all down on the front end.
Yeah.
Because once again, the idea is we sell the property at fair market value, which gives us a zero basis for the prevailing wage problem, right? And then we use those proceeds for the economic incentives that we're offering for the project.
Right. So where I was going with that is, one, how long is this going to drag on if he's only buying one lot at a time? And then 2, you're proposing that we pay for some of the design work, but I'm just wondering when that would occur. Is it after he buys the lot or before? Because, I mean, he's going to have to put an equity injection into this project before the bank's going to do anything. So it's not like he doesn't already have to put money into it. You're saying we step in and pay for things, but it's like he's already going to put money into it. So I'm just trying to figure out in my head the timing of how all this would work and what skin in the game he would have before we committed.
Right.
So if you could, Harry, we've done this twice, right? We've done this with Laz, but there was another development that we did as well where we had the land, leveled it, and then they built the 2 duplexes, right?
The project we did, the middle housing infill project with Jovic Construction, we did a similar thing. Now, we didn't front pre-development money for design. He did all the design on his own. I mean, we worked on a design together schematically, but he did all the architecture on the front end. So that's a question the question is, conceptually, is this something that you would like to help with? One of the problems that I consistently encounter with people, especially in this small scale residential infill, is everybody doesn't want to come out of pocket for all the pre-development expense. That's one of the risks that Mura can help mitigate. And if we can approach this on the basis of developing yet another prototype of housing that would be replicable elsewhere in the city and replicable on this site, then we're investing in some design work that has some long-term value beyond this project alone. So in the case of Laz's project, we agreed to front that money before he exercised his option. That was one of the conditions. But it worked out. There was some risk there. I mean, we get to keep all the design work if it doesn't happen, and we can sell it to somebody else, or let somebody else use it, or find a different developer. In the case of Laz's project, I think it would have been harder to take that design and get somebody else to buy it and do it, just because every developer has their own idea about how they want to do stuff. I think in this location, you create a 12-unit building, there are a lot of people who could build that, who might have interest in that as an investment property. So I think there's a little bit less risk on the pre-development design work. But that's all subject to whatever direction you all want to give in terms of negotiating or bringing forward some kind of formal proposal.
Mr. Carlinger?
So I have a couple of questions. One is just to get my bearings. This alleyway in yellow that we're talking about.
Correct.
There's the whole blocks. We have Beatty and Niantic and Walnut and Manzanita as our boundaries.
The lower side is Manzanita. The left-hand
this is the
side
alley
is Beatty.
that's halfway between.
Correct, between Beatty and Niantic.
Okay, got
Correct.
it. And then the upper boundary is about halfway between Manzanita and Walnut. Do I have
Correct.
my bearings
There's
correct?
another
Okay.
property, another multifamily product north of this site.
I mean, rough numbers, because I know you don't know them for sure yet. If we sell the property for 400, we pay for some design work, then offset SDCs. How close are we to just being at a break even?
We're not.
Okay.
We will never be at break even. So I'll clarify that we bought these properties, and the acquisition and demolition and all the title
Okay.
work that we have done, we have sunk capital that we are never going to recover.
No, that makes sense. I was asking the question a poor way, but I take your point. Thanks.
Yeah, right. And the point was to eliminate the blight and reset the land for a more intense development.
Mr. Card.
Is this sort of a thing like that we should be going out? I mean, I understand like, hey, we've got this concept, that's great, but is this something that like there's like needs to be a competitive bid process for, or?
If that's your preference, we can put it out and do an RFP and seek multiple proposals for the board to consider.
Is that not a requirement for this sort of a
No.
project?
No, it's not. We had the same question that came up early on with the hotel project. And when I went to the board and I said, look, I've got these hotel developers who are interested in this. Do you want to do an RFQ, RFP process for this? And I remember, who was it? Dick Gordon said, well, if somebody from Medford had wanted to do this, they should have stepped forward a long time ago, so no. Which was kind of funny. We did do an RFQ on the Central Avenue site in order to select a developer, but we did not do one with Genesis. So we can do a private disposition. We don't have to go through competitive bid for the disposition of the property. But if you would feel that it's more appropriate and that we should invite competition for the site, again, this is what he wants to do. I'm not the kind of person who goes and shops somebody else's project, right?
Sure.
So I wouldn't want to put this out there to say, who else wants to do this project? I would just simply say, we've got this property, you want to do some housing on it, bring us a proposal. Because we may get a 40-unit apartment building, I don't know.
I guess I look at this as something that is like far more within the realm of what is traditionally built in Southern Oregon. And so I know there's a number of local developers who probably could look at this property and have good use for it. And so I would hate to just grab the first person who comes along. Whereas, thinking about the hotel, to Dick Gordon's point, that's a pretty special development, especially back at that time when Dick Gordon was around. So, for sure. Thanks, Harry.
It hasn't been that long. Jeez.
You've just been here a long time.
Councilor Ayers.
And if I can just add one more thing, if you wish to go and look for other development interest in this site, I would need the board's direction about, is it housing? Do you want it to have a significant housing component? I don't see this as a very desirable commercial site. I don't think there would be much interest in that. But as a matter of policy, one of the things that we have set our objectives on in Liberty Park is infill housing. So I would want a policy decision about the intent of soliciting development proposals.
And I would just add that I would want to understand once again, the rents level that
Sure.
he's looking at providing to make
Right.
sure that it really is something that we want to support with Mira.
Right.
Could we put a gas station there?
Well, I was going to look for a car wash.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, man, is there enough car washes in that area?
Is there a marijuana shop
Commercial.
within 1,000 feet of this site?
I'm so, oh, right.
Okay. So the question's on the table. How would we like to proceed? Would we like to just say, hey, we have some land that people can develop on, give me what you want to do on it, and then the Mira board can rank? Could be that we scare off the one person that has an idea of what they want to do. That's always a problem, right? Maybe they come in and say, hey, I'll just provide more information on what I already want to do. Harry talked about it. A lot of what we've done, especially in Liberty Park, was how do we get rid of this blight and then turn right around and make it a capital investment and help people turn it into needed housing. So when I look at this, personally, I see us do other things that are like this that have been successful, even if it is time consuming at times. I see this, I'm like, this seems like a good thing to put some money up front. We hope it works out. In light of it doesn't work out, I mean, that's kind of just how it works with Mira, where sometimes, as I've told Mr. Card, sometimes it's very difficult to spend the money. This is not a giveaway in terms of we're throwing it out there to some nobody. We're turning it out there to a company that is doing things like this already, and I'm personally fine with front-loading a little bit of cost here and seeing if he wants to keep moving forward. But if another person has a different idea, this is the time to share it.
One suggestion to facilitate the board's conversation around this: when we did the Genesis, the board created an ad hoc subcommittee for real estate. And we had 3 members who worked more focused on this, and they brought forward a recommendation to the full board. So you can delegate this to a subcommittee to work out the details and bring back a recommendation. Or you can just tell staff to go forward.
How big is this parcel?
It is 253 feet by 90 feet.
An acreage?
I don't remember.
Oh, we have a real estate agent. We have a broker.
About 22,000 square feet, so it's about a half acre.
Okay. So do we want to go pretty deep on a half acre of land, or do we want to see that we already have a potential developer and move forward with them? Mr. Card.
One of the things that I think, perhaps this is, again, in the spirit of, I understand it's hard to spend money. But one of the things that I think we do a lot of is, or I think we do too much of, is building units with subsidized rents, with a focus on low income, and that lack an opportunity for ownership. And so I don't know, this is a pie in the sky request. You know, is there a way that we could try to turn this into property that enables ownership at a lower income level as opposed to another multifamily low income project?
Just donate it to Habitat.
I would rather do that, honestly. I'd rather just give it to Habitat and have Habitat do something with it than this, personally.
Well, so that's a very interesting question. And so part of what I find about Mr. Costanza's approach to this is he's a member of the Hispanic community in Rogue Valley. And he's tied in very closely with the Hispanic community. And he has actually talked with Evergreen and talked with Rogue Credit Union about focusing his marketing. These would be market rate. This is not capital A affordable, 60% of AMI. This is workforce 90 at 130%. And working with families and individuals in the Hispanic community who may need to move into housing and establish credit through credit counseling and a credit history in order that it would be a stepping stone to home ownership. So he has a much larger social idea in mind about serving the lower income, moderate income Hispanic community that he is very close to. With that said, that could characterize how he's approaching who his client base is and how he would like to serve the community with this project, and looking for relationships with Rogue Credit Union or Consumer Counseling Credit with Bill Ely's group, that kind of thing. So we can kind of flesh that out in a more articulate way if that is something of interest. In terms of making this home ownership, I mean, you could. Well, it would still have to be multifamily because it's CC. So it can only be multifamily. You can't put townhouses here.
We'll go to Mr. West.
I feel ill-equipped this evening to give direction to staff. This is the first time I've realized, we own this property, and I think I would want to have better understanding of what we can do with this property, and more holistic understanding. Yeah.
So what do you think that looks like in your eyes so you are more informed?
Committee.
No. Well, I'd like to go and look at the property physically, and I want to look at its zoning. And so I bring it back to Mira next time we have a meeting.
So what do we tell Mr. Costanza?
That he's free to bring us a proposal, of course, that we could look at if he wants to. I don't feel like I understand his vision, of course, besides 12 three-story buildings. I'm just not getting it.
So why don't I set up a tour for any board members who would like to look at the property? Keep in mind that we are also reconstructing Manzanita Street, right? We have a $2.3 million capital improvement there. One of the reasons we went after that was to have the opportunity for value capture based on the public infrastructure that we were going to be improving on this site. So there is a bigger context about what the strategy and intention was here. But I'd be happy to arrange a tour and go into more detail about this building prototype, which is a creature of the building code and is kind of an efficient form, what that looks like, what the unit count is, what the unit sizes are that we're looking at.
Mr. Curlinger?
With the reconstruction of Manzanita, do we expect that the appraised value of this would go up from the 400 you've got as a placeholder, or do we just not know yet?
I don't know. I would be reluctant to project.
No, that's fine. That's
if
speculative.
there would be an increment of additional value. It'd certainly be a more attractive corner than it is today.
If the bill that's up in Salem right now regarding condo construction passes, could that open up opportunity for this site?
If the board wants to look at condominium form, sure.
Okay.
Is that Mr. Quinn over there?
Yeah. Harry, I just don't think I understand the numbers as well as I would like to. We would be
Sure.
contributing the land, and then what else would we be kicking in?
No.
Help me understand, Harry.
Okay. So again, the gorilla in the room is prevailing wage. We never want to hit the tripwire that triggers prevailing wage on any project. So the way we do that is we do everything at market value and we cap our contribution to keep below that threshold. The tools for doing that is there's this limit of direct cash or indirect cash, like a land cost write-down, that would be deemed public funds in a project. And then you have this pot of money to pay for SDCs that don't count towards that calculation. So we try and balance that out, use the land value as a source of funding to put back into the development. So we do a market rate sale of land, which is important too, because we don't want a bunch of comps out there that have to be adjusted because we did land cost write-downs. I'd rather have really clean, consistent market value transactions on sites, because that helps other sites throughout downtown. And that's why we did that with Laz's project, and we did it with the hotel project. And we did it with La Fiesta, with the grocery store project that we have going up there, where the new stormwater detention facility or retention facility was installed. So we don't want to skew the market data on land sales. So going for full market value and then using those proceeds is the way that we fund these projects. And that doesn't tap into additional TIF. Right.
So how much is it going to cost Mira at the end of the day is what I'm trying to understand.
That's a negotiation.
Understood.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what
How
it
about
takes.
in
I mean,
general,
we would look at that and we would look at the development and say, what kind of gap is there that warrants our support, right? What helps get this project done? Because there's always the but-for Mira test. Now, but-for Mira going in and cleaning all this stuff up, nobody would ever touch this site because it was a title nightmare in addition to a bunch of blighted property. But that's one of the things that we do. We do assemblage and we clean things up to have developable property. So those are all deal terms that we would negotiate based on a pro forma for the project.
Mr. Field, will we be having a Mira meeting in June?
I don't know if there will be any action.
Let me check. I've got the calendar here. I'll check. I'll get right back.
Well, if there isn't one, we might want to have one, because my proposal, based on commentary, unless I hear something different that want to move forward with this on the table, let's give it, let's talk about this again in June. During that time, that allows people to reach out to Harry. That means you got to reach out to Harry, not Harry reach out to you. You need to reach out to Harry about any questions you might have regarding land use or zoning or appraisal values or what it looks like or touring the site or seeing if it can turn into a pickleball court or whatever it might be. And then in June, we'll try to give better direction in terms of what to do with this property. Is there anything, is there any further council discussion on that? It looks like we are okay with that. Mr. Field?
June 18th.
Okay, we'll discuss this again on June 18th. Mr. Weiss, continue.
Okay, capital tracker. So this afternoon, Winnie sent out a revised capital tracker because I wanted to capture the appraisal value of the hotel site, which was not available at the time that we distributed the packet last week. As I explained in the study session memo, this is kind of a master tracker of where we've spent money and where we have budgeted money and where we have allocated money softly for projects. Some of them are harder, more hard commitments, and some of them are soft commitments. And we break it out according to what our cash resources are, what we have committed and already spent, both in downtown and in Liberty Park, because when the district was extended in 2018 and the last $20 million of TIF was captured, the intent, policy focus of the board at that time was that the majority of those funds would be spent in support of improvements in Liberty Park. So there's not a lot of difference in this spreadsheet from what you've seen before, other than some revisions to projected interest income and lease income. And then this figure here, the 1.5 million, which is the purchase price for the hotel site, which is reduced from 1.75 on the previous iteration that you saw. I've added in, captured all of the site-associated expenses for the hotel, including when our original acquisition expense, transaction expense, the demolition, the gas line relocation turned out to be substantially higher than what we initially thought it was going to be. So it came in at 150,000. We thought it was going to be more like 80 or 90, but there were some complications when we got into the ground, and of course the appraisal price is in there too. So total expended here in downtown. And then these are the current allocations for projects. We've got about 120 earmarked to do all this vacation stuff. $1 million, up to $1 million for SDCs for the hotel, and then the $749,999 economic incentive grant. Now, when we did the land exchange with Lithia to get the hotel site, we swapped the parking lot next to the old Inn at the Commons on the east side of Riverside, between Riverside and the creek, just to the south of Inn at the Commons. We swapped that like dollar for dollar, 1.5 million, 1.5 million trade. And Lithia was very interested and supportive of our doing this because they really liked the idea of having a downtown hotel a block and a half from their headquarters because they bring so many people in town and they want to have a better presentation. And a hotel was actually included in the original Commons concept on this location, which they were obviously also involved with. But as part of that exchange agreement, one of the things that we discussed was, all right, we're going to give you this parking lot, and you need to consolidate a lot of the parking that you currently are using public parking, like in the deck and surface lots, and get your employees to park in your own parking lot, and then open it up to the public on weekends and nights. At the time, there was a discussion about whether Lithia might develop that site, in which case they would probably need to add structured parking. So we agreed to an incentive if they chose to build a parking deck on that site, that we would contribute the $749,999 that we could do into the project without triggering prevailing wage. And that agreement extends through a year from now, April of 2026. there's been no progress or further discussion about them doing something. There's a lot of other conversations about what to do with that site that I'm sure you all are aware of. But in terms of moving forward with this incentive, there's no action. And at this point, a year out, it ain't happening, I don't think. So we need to revisit, the board needs to give some direction about what if anything, we want to do in talking with Lithia about whether to terminate this incentive or redeploy it for something else. So it's available out there because at this point, I don't see where a deck is going to occur. Then coming down here, these are what we have spent in Liberty Park. We've already spent $6.8 million. And then this is really the bulk of where we have stuff yet to, or stuff that we have committed to or made soft commitments to that have yet to come to fruition. So we have the Dolores Huerta project, the Central Avenue restriping. We've got $750,000 of traffic calming in Liberty Park, which I just can't imagine where we're going to spend that kind of money on that. We do have $2.3 million for Manzanita. That will go to be complete with engineering at the end of the summer, and we'll be going out to bid with construction possibly beginning by in fall. And then some other incidentals, alley chip seal that you all approved back in December, and money to reconstruct the north side of Edward Street across from Kids Unlimited. So there is money there to be reallocated, and then we also did $150,000 to support the investigation of Muro 2.0. Then at the bottom, we have the other land holdings that we still own that are cash value on our balance sheet, essentially, that we can convert into projects. So that we have a total of unallocated resources of about a little bit more than $1 million, and ostensibly only $18,000 in unallocated cash, but there's about, at least $3 million, $2.5 million of soft commitments of cash to projects that are probably not going to progress. So that's where we stand today, and that's what you've got to work with in terms of where you would be able to take resources and deploy them in support of a project in the plan.
Great, thank you. Any questions about that? Seeing none. Thank you. I greatly appreciate this, by the way.
Yeah, typically we've tried to do this on a quarterly basis just to keep you all tracking. Yeah. We haven't done that as much in the last 6 months.
Right.
But going forward, we'll continue to bring this to you every quarter for you all to review and keep tabs of, what we got.
I appreciate it. All right. Is there anything else on the study session agenda?
I have no other stuff to present, but I'll happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Is there anything else for Mr. Weiss before we break? Yes, Mr. Kernlinger.
I'll just do it now because we were talking about it, and I'm going to email you right after this meeting anyway. We've discussed the Mura sites downtown, and with anyone else who'd like to come, I'd love to set up a time with you to go tour them real quick.
Sure.
I just think it'd be helpful to get eyes on and wrap my mind around this is where this is.
Okay.
I'm coming in cold relative to.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can arrange a tour. We can go up to Beatty Street. We can go look at our property on Jackson. We can look at the property next to La Fiesta, and we can look at the hotel if you want. I'm sure you all have driven past the hotel site.
Admittedly, this is something I could have done on my own time after you gave me the map, but I wasn't coerced into doing it, and now I'm going, I need to do this.
I am happy to be a tour guide anytime.
Awesome. All right, is there anything else? Seeing none, it looks like we will break for executive session here immediately.
21. Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
What's that?
We're not doing Mark.
Oh, okay. I did.
We can control that. That's one of the reasons why we control the design.
Yeah, glad you, see, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know.
There's always more in the background.
Yeah, yeah. Eric has alluded to that, not quite in those terms.
Yeah, and I've talked to Werner about that. He has a relationship with Werner. I've seen some of the projects. He did projects. It's pretty good. Better than